We are now live, and I know we've got one or two people that have waited on the various platforms and wondering where on earth we are, but we're here, we're fine, we're live. Welcome, a little bit of a delayed start as well. The countdown's still up and running, but it does mean that it gives me a little bit of time to say thank you very much indeed to everybody who supports, of course, as always on Patreon. And everyone who's watching on the various platforms. The Facebook page is now, or all the Facebook bits and pieces are now public, which means if you want to share the platform and what we're up to, by all means, please do jump in and spread the word. Let everyone know that we're going to be doing this this streaming incidental episode, of which I'm doing a fair few. But you know what, it's been a pleasure to kind of organise these and get them sorted for this week. This is where I'm going to press this button because I didn't spend a whole week sorting out this intro video to not show it every single video. Hello there everybody, welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana and this is where we talk convention culture, comics, television, films, pop culture, all the things that we get to enjoy at conventions when they happen, which is a bit of a downside for many creators because conventions are a great leveler. They're a fantastic platform for people to get out there and showcase some amazing work. Nowadays, I think the best way for people to get their work out to an audience is through Kickstarter, through crowdfunding. And that's why it's a joy to have, I want to get the second name right. This is where I used to do the challenge. Khai Krumbhaar. Have I got that right?
You nailed it.
Wow, excellent stuff. That's cool.
Excellent
stuff. Listen, thank you very much indeed for joining us, Khai. It's a pleasure to have you along. What I'm actually going to do now is bring in a piece of artwork because basically what we're here to talk about is a very intriguing, powerful, passionate, it's a hell of a project, and it is True War Stories, which is a crowdfunding effort which is telling some very, like I say, powerful stories, and it's a pleasure to have you join us and to talk about it. First things first, I think it's best, let's let you do your own introduction. Tell everyone who you are and yeah, a bit of your background, please.
All right, my name is Khai Krumbhaar. I was in the Army for just under 12 years, and in that time I deployed to Iraq a couple of times. Eventually I was medically retired, but I was an Arabic linguist while I was in the Army, so basically I was always the least cool but sometimes most necessary person there. That's about where that puts you. I have been doing writing and editing at freelance and then also at the Geekiary before I started working on this book with Alex de Campi, who I met actually at Comic Con.
Wow.
Yeah, several years ago. We were couch crashing at the same friend's place.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? It's always great to make friends that way.
Yeah, it was actually Chris Cornish who runs Comic Squee podcast. I think she had Alex there as a guest that week.
That's rather cool. So when it comes to your interest in comics, like you say, you're a writer. I mean, I'm guessing that's prose, fiction, non-fiction.
I work. I feel like being a writer is sort of one of those things like being an actor. You know, I do other things. Oh, but I'm also a writer. So
Gotcha.
I do write professionally a lot in the web content space, as well as about fandoms and things like that for the geeky area. Um, I have my own projects I'm working on, but because so much of my life has been military and then kind of recovering from the military, it puts you a little bit behind, a little bit in your civilian life. So I've already forgotten the first half of your question. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry about it. I think what I was kind of trying to ascertain is how your writing has translated into comic writing and the creating of the book. Because I mean, the one thing that we can talk about a little bit down the line, and I have got it saved in my little slideshow presentation, is that you've actually written a story for this particular project. But we'll start with the actual the kernel of the project first, no pun intended. In terms of how it kind of started to come together. I mean, the actual idea for True War Stories, and you explain it in your the Kickstarter video, is that people who are deployed in the military, they all uniformly, and another pun not intended, I do apologise.
They're just going to keep coming. That's going to be like imagine, the undercurrent.
Yeah. Is that there's this a real commonality of people do come back with stories, and to have this project come together. I mean, how long has it been kind of gestating? How long has it been bubbling away?
It's been, I want to say about 3 years. It may have been 4 years since we first started talking about it. The very first tiny kernel of True War Stories was that I met Alex at our friend's house where we were staying, and we were talking, and I just felt really comfortable with her. And in a way I don't usually do with civilians, I shared one of my war stories. And it's the story that eventually would go on to become Rebels of Macadamia, which is my contribution. I say that it is about fighting rats for cookies, but it's really about trying to make war small and manageable and approachable in a way that young people out in the world for almost the first time in their lives can handle. So I tell her this story, and I get done, and we're kind of laughing because it's funny. And she says, you know, I've always wanted to write an anthology of war stories. And I laughed and I said, yeah, you know, but like people don't really want to hear war stories. They want to hear like the cool stories. They want to hear, you know, I was crawling through the mud and there's rockets going overhead. And they want to hear like the stories that kind of frame things the way that they expect them to be framed. They don't want to hear the stories about, you know, these rats are stealing my cookies, or I'm just really bored up here on guard duty, or we have a story in here, 0K, which is about a sniper who's trying to deal with a shot he never took. People don't, I didn't really think people wanted to hear those stories, but Alex did. And a little while after we talked at Comic Con, we all, you know, we kind of go our separate ways. I've told that story a few times before. Nothing really ever came of it. People were kind of interested, but kind of just let it go. She reached back out and she said, hey, what if we actually make this book? And I said, yeah, you know, sure. Who's going to buy it? And she said, no, really, like someone's going to buy this book. This is a good story. So working together, we worked on the script for Rebels of Macadamia, and we worked with Jeff McCompsey and Decon Left, did an 8-page, did a little 8-page sample, the first 8 pages. And we used that sample to pitch the book. And at first we had a lot of interest. It stalled out a few places that it didn't really want to stall out. We had I'm going to say, I don't know if this is indiscreet. We had a financially better offer at another publisher. But the problem is they didn't want to give us an advance. And Alex and I feel very strongly that artists need to be paid. Like they shouldn't do art on spec. I know that that's how it's done in some places. You do art and you get, I don't know, money on the back end or once the book sells. But we wanted to pay our artists up front so that, you know, everyone actually can live and pay their bills. So we ended up with Z2, who are I'm probably spoiled for working in comics forever, working with Z2 and working with Alex as my co-editor, because this has been just a smooth, really responsive, really supportive process. And now it's kind of culminating in 3 days into our Kickstarter, having 3/4 of our goal already reached.
Yeah, well, we'll get into the actual
Right.
We'll get into the Kickstarter element of it in a bit, because I mean, it's just the project itself which absolutely appeals to me. Because I mean, you were talking there about how you felt that people may want to hear the big bombastic stories. They want to hear the American sniper stories, as it were. But I mean, Solicitous Meg, I think, pretty much wraps it up the best way you can. You're talking about your role on deployment, least cool perhaps, but most necessary. It sounds like you are defining every nerd on the planet. I know it defines me, and I don't just think that because of my raging narcissism. Okay, we'll leave that one there. We'll let that hang. That's fine, Solicitous Meg. But no, I mean, I think that's looking through the Kickstarter and the stories that you're putting into this, from what I've seen. They aren't necessarily the big kind of the Zero Dark 30s, the big action kind of pieces. They're the small, intimate stories, the personal stories, and I think that's what really lends itself to this project. In terms of the talent pool as well that you've pulled in, whoa, good lord, that's it's a hell of a roster. If you can just kind of rattle off some names off the top of your head, perhaps.
Put me right on there.
I know. You are
right on there.
No, you are aware that the first 5 people are your chosen favourites, and the rest of them, they don't really matter. No.
Fair.
No.
Let me just name drop the favorite right off the top. No, I will say right now, I do have a favorite story in this book that's not my story. Obviously, mine is my very favorite. I'll say I shouldn't say my favorite artist. Among my favorite artists and authors working in the books, I really love Kelly Fitzgerald. Love. Just the colors are really one of my favorite parts. We have Peter Krause is working on it. He pinch hit for us and did a second story. We had one artist that had to drop out for family. Life matters. The world is insane right now. So he came in and pinch hit and did a second story for us. And I love his art. I want to stare at it all day. I won't though, because it's so good. It actually makes me feel a little uneasy, and I have to like stop looking at it and go hug kittens for a little while. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to bring up some of the artwork as well, and some of the pieces, just so we can all kind of share.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, no, they really. I think. I mean, you mentioned Kelly Fitzpatrick, and that is definitely the name that comes up a lot through most of the sample pages that you've got up on the Kickstarter. And I quite liked that idea of a uniformity of the color style moving through the book. But Kelly has shifted the style of their work throughout for each story, and really being very very respectful of the line art and what the story requires. So while Kelly's name comes up a lot, it's great that there's this real evolution for each story. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's deep, it's dramatic, it's epic, but like I say, while the representation may be epic, the stories are still very personal. It's about individual experiences on deployment.
Yeah, these are the ones we tell each other. Like, if you're hanging around sharing war stories, these are the kind of things that we would tell each other. Not necessarily the first one we would tell, your brother-in-law at a barbecue or something.
Yeah.
It's cool. This one you have up now, Bomb Convoy.
Oh. No, it's okay. Go on.
Ray Patridge is actually Skylar's father, and that is the second father, like, parent-child team in the book. My dad has a story in the book, and I actually helped him write the script for it, which I have to say was an unexpectedly strong bonding experience. My dad was in Vietnam, and then I, of course, was in the Iraq War, and we never really talked about what it was like to be at war with each other, even though we both knew from different wars.
Was
So,
it kind of like this unspoken thing between the pair of you?
it was. He's actually my stepfather, but I call him my dad because I think he's earned it at this point. I was a absolutely obnoxious teenager, and he really hung in there with us. So we've always had kind of a hard one, kind of just mutual respect. But then after I went in the military, and especially after I came back from Iraq, we kind of had a deeper bond. And I don't think I really appreciated it until we were working on this book, and he started talking about his experiences in Vietnam, and I was like, oh hey, let's that's same. We're like, we both had that. Oh, I guess this is those tiny moments of, oh cool, I guess I die today. That's great. Let me just accept that. And I think about how he greeted me when I got back from Iraq the second time, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going back. And I read his story that he contributes in this book, which he named My Vietnam Blast, because he has a really weird sense of humor. And I just remember that last hug when he knew I was coming back and I wasn't going to go back overseas again, probably, and how relieved he was. And it kind of really made me look at him in a different light. So
Yeah.
I even talked to Skylar, but I think that was probably a similar.
Yeah, I can imagine. Also, we're not just talking about a specific conflict here as well. It is, like you say, we're talking. I mean, it says it on the actual the cover of the book that it is covering tales of deployment from Vietnam to today. Other conflicts are featured inside this book. So Vietnam.
We have conflicts, but we also have just like theaters. We have Vietnam. We have somebody who was in, where was he? We have a soldier who is in Okinawa. We have some SEALs who were doing training in Haiti. We have people in the Philippines. We have people in Afghanistan, just everywhere. And we have a Navy ship in the middle of the ocean. We have basically wherever the armed forces are, we tried to pull stories from there. It was kind of a conscious choice to not have too many stories from one specific place, just so we could tell more.
Yeah.
And to try to get all the branches. We somehow missed the Coast Guard, and I feel bad for it. We realized after we got all the stories done, we're looking and we're like, okay, Air Force,
Yeah.
They get left out a lot.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm really curious about also. I mean, like I say, these are very personal stories, and like you say, these are the stories that you tell each other. But then that's to translate into actually telling it on a public scale and to tell it as a graphic novel and in an anthology. What was it to approach people to tell their stories? Was there this sense of relief and the ability to unburden their story and get it out there? Or, I mean, did it take a little bit of persuading? I mean, what was that process like?
I think the people I talked to, I can't speak for Alex's approach. I think that knowing that half of the team is a veteran, so you're not gonna face the civilian. Okay, but what's the real cool story? That because half the editor team is an Army vet, and for me, I think there's like a sense of surprise and maybe I don't want to say shy sounds too weird of a word. Maybe it just seems strange and kind of delightful. There we go. That people want to be interested in the stories that we want to tell over and over again. Again, I know I keep coming back to this, but it just is so surprising, and I want to say flattering maybe, that civilians might actually want to hear the good stories instead of, the cool stories.
Yeah. We've got Solicitorous Meg. Always ask some good questions. Does Solicitorous Meg. Did you have to turn down any stories? And if so, for what reasons?
We had to turn down so many stories. Literally, after the Kickstarter got up, even somebody sent us a very cool story about an older veteran who had somehow been in 3 different branches through like in different conflicts and had been like briefly. We kind of looked at it briefly because we were looking at we were working on the campaign. Had briefly been a POW and just a really cool guy. And we looked at the timeline and we were kind of like, oh, how fast could we squeeze this in and make it 16 stories? We had to turn down stories because they were too similar to other stories. There was a few times that happened. We had to turn down stories that we couldn't entirely verify. We did get some funny stories, but obviously you go around a little bit and you know that there are the stories that are kind of like made up that we tell at the VFW hall. So a few of them didn't quite pass the sniff test. They were cool, but maybe not the best.
Yeah. What was the separation of duties, as it were, between yourself and Alex? I mean, was it a case of yourself calling on people you knew, perhaps, to get the stories as part of the roster, and Alex with her contacts in terms of the actual creative and the artwork? I mean, what was the division of roles, as it were?
This is really cool. I expected when I came into this a little bit. I had the thought in my head that I do write. You know, I have that past at the website where I edit. I kind of had a thought that Alex had intended me to just be the military name on the label so that she could say, hey, look, I'm legit. I have a soldier here. And that hasn't really been the case at all. She did line up the majority of the contributors. A lot of them you might notice, like Charlie Sherpa, a few of them have followings online already. Just, kind of people with a presence in the community, in the comics community, who are also veterans. And so she lined a few of those up. I brought in a few. Obviously, I brought in my dad. Alex didn't call my dad. But so the division of responsibilities has been Alex is doing a lot of the industry type things. Yeah. Things that require, I know how to. She found the publisher. I wrote the original script that we used to publish or to pitch, and then she pitched, and then as scripts have been coming in, she's actually made a point of bringing me in on everything. Like, hey, we need to have the military eyes on everything, and it's actually a good thing that happened. There was a few times we had to go all the way back and finish art. Like we would get all the way to colors and realize, no, we messed something up in line work and have to go all the way back and finish it so that it was accurate.
Fair enough.
Right.
Sorry, I'm being a little bit distracted by someone who's.
So am I. My dog is actually Fargo is over here having a very interested bark at the window.
I've got somebody who's wanting to get fed. There you go. That's the cat sorted. But there we go. So I think another question that I've been asking for creatives over the course of the summer, because we've been having a lot of people getting into Kickstarter and making that connection with fans in that regard. But at the end of the day, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Funds for some people aren't a little accessible. You've also got the idea of a lot of Kickstarters out there. Why did Kickstarter appeal for True War Stories as the platform to go to connect with an audience?
Well, it was a little bit of a decision in the beginning. The reason we went with Kickstarter is that the publisher is actually offered to donate all of their profits to charity. Cool. We have a selection of veterans charities that we kind of picked out amongst ourselves. And because they're doing that, we kind of were like, maybe we could cover the actual hard publishing costs with the Kickstarter. And then that actually frees up more money we can donate from retail sales. And I think there was also an element of no one's going anywhere. No one's going to walk into a bookstore and see the book hanging out nicely on a shelf or a big display poster. So it was also an element of this is a really good way for people to find the book.
That makes
So
sense.
kind of two reasons.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And also, I think also when it comes to anthologies as well, when you have this amount of roster of talent, when you have it on a shelf and you see just the editors' names, perhaps, it can sometimes can sometimes dilute the talent stream that's involved. Whereas with a Kickstarter, you've got more time and more space to represent the people that are involved and actually are presenting. I mean, so if I just stop this and bring in the actual Kickstarter page, because then we can also go through a number of the names that are listed. I mean, here we are. This is just insane.
Isn't it great?
Look at this. Peter Krause, Ryan Howe, Skylar Bridge, doing her own on story. Owen Maron, Tish Doon.
Oh, Owen is great.
Yeah. Dave Acosta, A. DeMaco, Drew Moss, Josh Hood, PJ Holden, who I'm a big fan of, Chris Peterson, Sam Hart, Jeff McComsey, Paul Williams, and who I'm a huge fan of is Dee Cunniff. The fact that you got Dee Cunniff is
Isn't it great?
Quite a land. That's something else. Matt Sophie, Kelly Fitzpatrick, Tarsis Cruz, and Aladdin Collar. I mean, that is just, and not even to mention the cover by Richard Johnson, which is just an astonishing piece of work in itself. Just that the talent pool, and I think to have that. The Kickstarter platform, it gives you that time and ability to showcase the people involved. And I am going to go back to the actual pages as well, because they are just stunning to look at.
Really cool.
Let's just bring this back in. I will. That one. There you go. I will find it. There. It's there. So there we go. I mean, this is joint team. Kay Fitzpatrick on colours again. Ian Ishan on the writing, line art by Chris Peterson. You talked about the actual percolating of the project. When it came to actually getting the artwork in and getting the actual physical stories together, how is that actually completed at this point? Is it actually the book done, as it were?
All of the stories are scripted, and they're all at the very least in inks right now. We have one story that we had to kind of go back. We had I mentioned earlier, we had an artist that had to drop by, and Peter Krause picked up a baton. There we go. Picked up the baton on that one. So that right now everything is at least in inks, and almost everything is lettered. So Alex is doing the lettering. So
whoa, okay.
I love her lettering. She has we actually had conversations over what kind of font she was going to use in different panels. It was pretty good. There's a stinky peanut butter font in Rebels that we had a laugh over.
Fair enough. I mean, just the artwork is just blowing me away.
This whole page, we had way back when we started, when I was writing my script, one of the first conversations was, you can't swear that much in this book. We have to tone back the swear words. Most people in the army, you get issued one of three vices. You get drinking, you get smoking, or you get cursing, and I got cursing. It was just the one I was issued.
I would have actually thought it was going to be more a case of you get a choice of the first two, and the third just comes on just naturally.
I mean, every young soldier goes through a drinking phase. It's just the culture. It's how it happens. Yeah. I kind of, I grew up, I do my drinking in like high class establishments like my kitchen now. So
well, in 2020, don't we all? To be fair. Something that because these are, like I say, very personal stories, but of from the platform of war and conflict. What was your target age range? I'm guessing that was a conversation that happened between yourself and Alex very early on about where you felt the audience could be. Could this be going into schools? Could this be something that could be shown and represent for a young audience? Or is it more of an all ages? What was that conversation?
This was, as you said, this was a very early conversation when we were first doing the Rebel scripts. This was a few years ago. So any mistakes I make in this conversation are 100% mine. I do remember that we talked about when we were talking about the language, what kind of age we wanted to hit. I think in my life, I have a lot of very savvy, alert, aware, kind of like socially conscious teenage kids. A lot of my younger siblings, I have a niece, Kylie, who is named after me, and I shout her out every time I'm online anywhere. She's very socially conscious and aware, and probably more mature and able to address adult subjects. So I would say our age range was projected to be kind of like mature teenager until dead. Like I think that's our like if you're dead, you probably shouldn't read the book.
It'll be a challenge. But
I mean, I'm impressed. Don't let me stop you.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's not impossible, but it's a challenge. Fair enough. I don't
think kids, like little kids, I think would just have a hard time. Even maybe, I think most middle schoolers might kind of have a little bit of trouble with some of the themes. I don't think 0K is maybe a story that a middle schooler might want to read. Even Rebels, it's cute. It's cute. It's about, there's a lot of rats fighting. We have a little panel where I kind of like get personal about these rats, and they're wearing like little French Revolution outfits. So that's kind of cute, but there is, there are deeper themes in there that they might not really respond to.
You see, this is where I turn to, I've had this conversation with my wife. We were talking about stories that you feel may not be suitable. And it's certainly in the landscape of, certainly in America at the moment. I'm the kind of person that feels that there's a couple of films which deal with I'm blanking on the name of it. I'm sure the audience will jump in and let me know. The Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman film, which deals with race, and back in the 1940s, 1950s.
It's not Hunt for. Oh
no, it's not. No. I'm sure Dan's watching, and I'm sure he knows what I'm about. But the reason why I bring it up is because I'm of the opinion that those films, like Schindler's List, should be shown to 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, that they should learn that this is the landscape that people are in, and that lives are being led, and that these are lessons that can be learned. And then it's Caroline that's saying that would just traumatize the hell out of me. That age, maybe 15, maybe 16, but I'm wondering if this is a kind of book that could be an eye opener. It could be that the awakening of a wider world, and indeed a world view. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
I think if you want to read it, I could see that argument. And I think this is actually why my niece and the other kids I know are so aware. I want to say woke, but I'm like really old. I don't know if I can say that.
I know what you mean. I know.
Am I too old to say woke?
I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, I know I look like I'm about 12, but I'm pushing 40. So I think that if you want to read this book with younger kids, there's actually a lot that you could do. There is one story, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but read the book first, because there is one story you might kind of want to skip over. Right. It's the Navy story. We see a few panels of it. The swearing page panel is part of that story. So read at your own
discretion.
Discretion. I didn't want to say peril.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think the reason why I brought it up is because I'm wondering if this is a book also that a grown-up could support and back on Kickstarter, and then give to a younger reader to kind of expand their worldview, as it were.
I would say, now it sounds like I'm getting commercial, but I'm not. There is a 2-book level. So if you want to, again, I think that if you read it with a younger kid, that actually might be something that's okay. But I don't know that anyone in elementary range is going to get all the stories. Middle school, I think if you read with them, they'd probably be okay. I read a lot of things I shouldn't have read in middle school, so I might be biased.
Yeah. I mean, we've got Into the Blue Mister, and I think this is probably this is one of the better examples. I think Spiegelman's Mouse should be required reading at schools. You see, that's the kind of thinking perhaps I'm going to. But let's return to the actual choice of stories. You've got Solisterous Meg saying, since you have stories that are good but couldn't use, is there possibility for a volume 2 down the line?
Yes, please. Alex and I, we had a talk when we were going through all the stories that we wanted to do, and a few people had to drop out of this book. I don't want to say who. I don't want to say who because I don't want to make them feel bad. But a few people had to drop out of this book. One person actually got sick, I think, with coronavirus, or it might have just been a really bad pneumonia. But we have so many other stories we could tell, and we're still getting, every time people look at this book, they're like, oh my gosh, I have a story. And then they just kind of come out with this just amazing, incredible, hilarious, or just like really moving story. We have so many, we could do a book a year and still not run out of good stories. And I know this because I hang, I don't look like a traditional veteran, but like I like to do army things still, like veteran things still. It kind of never goes out of your blood. So I still hang out with military people, and we could easily write a book every year and not ever run out of really good stories.
Fair enough. I mean, it's safe to say that there's definitely the support there. I turned around and said, when I tweeted about an hour ago, that perhaps while we were on air, we could see you actually crossing the line for the actual goal. This is in UK, which you can just see, and it's getting there. Absolutely, it's getting there. But then again, 27 days to go. I mean, it's just over £15,000. I know it's $20,000, and it's coming up to £12,500. I mean, that's you must be thrilled to see that there's been this reaction and response coming down around the story. What's been the feedback that you've had online? Not just necessarily positive either. I mean, what's been the kind of responses you've been getting?
So from me, I have only gotten one person that I did block. My DMs are usually open because I like to talk to people. Most of the feedback has been really positive. People looking at it and saying, "Hey, wow, that's really cool," and then coming in immediately with, "Oh, well, my dad was in the Korean War, or my mom was an Air Force nurse, or someone was saying they had someone who's in the RAF." So most of it's been very positive, very kind of interested. I did the one comment I did get was kind of a, do you think this is really the right time to do a war book? Isn't that really unethical? And then a bunch of swear words and invectives, which I won't repeat. And I think that person probably would read the book and be surprised that it's not a political book. I don't know that a lot of people expect how not political this book is. Because it's not.
I'm just gonna say that's not what I've seen from the pages. It's not what I've seen from the stories. It's about experience. It's not about a political slant about the conflict. It's not about whether America should have gone into the Vietnam War. It's not about whether they should have gone to Iraq. It's about the people that served there while that conflict was happening, regardless of the politics back home.
It's all like, we were there, okay, so we're there, and then. It's not, why did we have to go there? Did we... there is one story, Airman Jennings the Impaler, which I love, and has some incredible art. I think we're not going to put any of it in the thing, because it's such amazing, incredible art. In that, he does actually, Airman Jennings goes through, we have a few reflective panels where he is trying to deal with the fact that he is suddenly overseas right after 9/11. He's not in an Arabic-speaking country, he's in Okinawa, but he's trying to deal with all of his paranoia about what to expect overseas in a completely different setting from where anyone related to 9/11 might have been. But I think that's about as political as it gets. He doesn't really have an opinion there. He just kind of mentions, oh, my family is talking to me about this, and also I'm kind of scared. And then. So.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. The film I was trying to think of, by the way, it wasn't Denzel Washington. Yes, Denzel Washington starred in a film with Gene Hackman. This is how my brain works. It's the Gene Hackman film. It's Gene Hackman. It was Mississippi Burning was the film I was trying to think of. That
I would not have gotten there.
I know. Trust me. I feel a film that could be shown to 15, 14-year-olds because it opens up their worldview. But there we go. And I think this is certainly a book that can do that. Like you say, not just for for any political slant, but about world experience. And I think also it's because it is incredibly respectful to the military. Because I think that's something that perhaps has been a little bit lost in recent times, admittedly on ground level in recent months. But the idea of people serving in uniform, I'm a supporter of that. I'm a supporter of someone who makes that sacrifice and puts themselves in that situation at the sacrifice for the greater good. And I think there's the commonality of the stories that I've seen on the Kickstarter is that the band of brothers. I'm going to go with the cliche term, but you get the idea. The idea that once you serve, there is that's a mindset and something that it never leaves you. I have family members that serve in the military, and I definitely see shadows and reflections of what they talk about on the pages that I've seen on the Kickstarter.
That's a big one. I am a giant nerd. I went into the Army after 9/11 because someone in my family, in whatever country they've lived in, has always been in the military when there's been a conflict. And my sister Kenzie and I were the two people who were of the appropriate age. She went into the Marines and had just a catastrophic shoulder injury in basic training. She's fighty. She got into a fight with another recruit and they basically stomped on her shoulder. So I ended up having to go in. And I went in as this nerdy, skinny, I have a lisp in case you haven't noticed, because I used to be deaf when I was a kid. And I went in the dorkiest human on the face of the planet. And I was sure I was going to be in this big group of like rock hard, cool people who were just never going to accept me. And that's not what happened. We all went through basic training. We all went through our language school. And as we did all the steps, all of that stupid stuff they do at basic training that seems just absolutely dumb, and all of the ridiculous things you do to baby soldiers when they're bad. Baby soldiers like young privates and maybe all the way up to specialists, but usually they've sorted themselves out by then. All of those ridiculous things that happen to you when you're joining the military that someone from the outside might look at and say, hey, that's hazing, you shouldn't do that. And some of it is, like some units go too far. So let me put that out there. But most of like the little petty dumb stuff, that all kind of removes those like jock, nerd, cheerleader, whatever labels that we came in with and kind of puts like the private label on you. And then as you go up, you kind of, private, but also a linguist, and now I'm in this unit, and now I've been to Iraq, and now this is the second time I'm going. And it kind of adds extra labels that you can use to kind of feel like part of a group. I'm still friends with most of the people that I served with, and some of them were just very politically far apart, but we just accepted each other. It's not like they accepted me, it's we all accepted each other for the different people that we were. And we kind of there's no going back from that. Like once you are part of the military family, you're that military family forever. And I know there's a few of them right now who, even if I haven't talked to them for a while, if I were to call them up and say, hey, I'm having a really rough time right now and I need some help. Like they would be just there. Like they would go, okay, what do you need? Let me make some phone calls. Let me send someone to your house to pick you up. I got a friend who knows a guy who has a bed in this treatment program. We got you. I'm getting a little choked up right now.
Don't
Like
worry about it.
that's forever. And
Sure.
for someone who is, for someone who was, I want to say an outcast. I had friends in high school, but I was pretty dorky. For someone to go into a traditionally male and traditionally tough and rough and very like very active field and be so strongly accepted like that, I can't tell you what kind of a transformative effect that has on a young woman, which I was, or a young man, I'm assuming. Okay. I'm looking at the comments. I see this was.
Mm.
It's incredible. Like I don't know how to explain it to someone who's never experienced it. It's a whole second family. Even the ones you haven't met, you drop that. Oh yeah, I was in the army. I deployed 04 to 05 and 06 to 08, and they immediately come back with, "Oh, I was there. I left in 04, so I think we may have passed each other." And then that's just instantly we're kind of friends.
Sure. I mean, we talked about the response you've had from. Well, obviously Alex has shared the project, and that they've gotten that audience. Certainly from the Kickstarter that will have shared it as part of graphic novels and comics. What's the response that you've had from those that have served, those that have been in the military? Have you had many people contacting you in that regard?
Mostly with stories. The contact that I've gotten has almost entirely been, "Hey, do you have time to put this story in the book?" And I just want to like, I made a separate folder in my email for all these people who have approached me with a cool story. And I'm like, I really want to listen to that right now, but I don't think we have time to get it in a book. We had a lot of the authors in the book. Everyone wrote their own story. We did kind of have to guide a few of them to put it into a comic format, but like the words are theirs. Like we didn't say, "Oh, but you probably would have said this." We're like, "Okay, this is the story you gave me, and here's a comic format. What do you think of this? Okay, you want this added? Okay, cool." I desperately would love to print just like a 1,000-page book with all of the stories that we've gotten from veterans. On a smaller note,
well, I'm surprised actually. I mean, it's a slightly different campaign to some that are out there in that you're not dealing necessarily with stretch goals, but it's like you say, the profits that are being raised from the Kickstarter and from the sales of the book are going to charity.
right?
So that there's that. Usually with Kickstarters and with stretch goals, it's you're wanting something in return
Right.
for your investment. In this regard, it's that money that is being raised is going to. That's what you're getting back. You're getting back that generosity that you've given to the charity, and I think that's another strong element. This is a really interesting one. This has come from I'm gonna butcher this, so bear with me. Muzak Mom and Deborah, or Muzak Mom 8 Deborah. Sorry. Have you thought about an annual edition?
I would love to. Please back this book well. I'm Z2. Just like, look, we almost funded in 3 days.
Well, absolutely.
Please let us do this every year.
It's gone great guns. It's done fantastic. Go on.
We have ideas for like themes. Like we had an idea of like, oh, well, this one's going to be the international theme, and this one's going to be the boot camp stories issue, and this is going to be the maybe if there's like a big anniversary of a branch, we do like that year's branch or that year's book is all Navy, and maybe we have like an oops all Coast Guard.
I was just going to say, you got the Coast Guard edition.
We have to put the Coast Guard
to kind of. Yeah,
we'll do 2 of you guys next book too. I promise.
Oh man.
Maybe they could get back in the Department of Defense, and we'd stop forgetting them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'm stunned that no one reached out to Tom King, because if there's somebody that likes to talk about his time as service,
man, can I just tell you, I'm a huge Tom King fan. If Tom King was like, "Hey, I have a great story for this book too," I will just like, Alex will have to talk to him, because I'll just like fall on the floor and just lay there, just stare at the ceiling, thinking about what my life has become.
I think an email needs to be sent, or a tweet needs to be forwarded in his direction.
I'm such a fan.
Yeah.
There's a few.
If there's somebody who could come up with a story, I think it's Tom.
Oh, don't do it to me. Or do it to me.
Oh, okay. Excellent. I mean, I'm going to bring it up one more time because it is just gone great guns, and it's great to see that so many people are connecting with this particular project. Just, I just want to say congratulations so far. Like I say, it's been
Thank you.
live for 3 days, and it's very very close now to
So
being
close.
it's so close, but
I do.
it's still got 27 days to go, which means there's plenty of time to take it over the line. Um,
If I
yeah,
could be, I want to be clear about one thing real quick. Just because I don't want to mislead anyone.
sure.
Kickstarter doesn't actually allow us to donate Kickstarter profits. So anything we get past our goal will actually go into both upping the quality of the book, like maybe a ribbon bookmark, and
Gotcha.
also bonuses to our artists. You have seen the names on this book. They're incredible artists, and they worked for us. We paid them. They worked for us. I'm sure they gave us like a pretty good discount. They did not pay. They did not charge us what they could command with their talent because they knew that this was a book we were doing for charity. So anything we raise above our goal goes to better quality books and bonuses for artists.
Excellent stuff. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, I was a little bit misleading there, but yeah, thank you very much indeed for clearing
I
that
don't want to
up.
get us in trouble.
No, I appreciate that absolutely. I don't know if I have scrolled down from it, but it says there at the top, I am a backer. I am somebody who's
Oh,
supporting this project because number one, I actually backed it more for the talent pool because that's where I came in. The people that were involved, I knew then it was going to be a well told, well represented story. But then, as I was discovering more and peeling back the layers of what the kernel of this project was all about, that's the reason why I asked if you could come on and talk to us, because it is a fascinating project. I really hope it's going to pass its stretch goal. Come on, it's
it's gonna.
there.
Hopefully, it's gonna get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope it continues to go great guns over the remainder of the campaign. Khai, thank you so much indeed for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations. I know I'm probably jinxing it at this point. That's kind of like my thing. I'll say
Okay,
something and then jinx it.
so if we don't fund, I just come and find you.
By all means, if you, yeah, I have no problem with that. I would totally accept it as well. I'd totally accept it. But Khai, thank you so much indeed for coming on. We've got the link there on the screen for kickstarter.com/projects/Z2 Comics, True War Stories, a comics anthology. But where is the best place for people to follow the project online? Is it a Facebook page? Is it a Twitter feed? Where's the best place to send people?
You're gonna find the best. You're gonna find the most information at Z2's at Z2 Comics on Twitter. We don't have a Facebook page set up for the book, or if we have, no one has emailed it to me.
Fair enough. In that case, I just want to say once again, thank you so much indeed for coming on, and congratulations on a really compelling project, and all the best to this, and indeed Volume 2 and the rest of the volumes going forward.
Fingers crossed.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Excellent. So there you go. Do go check out the Kickstarter. It's right there on the screen on the URL. It looks amazing. The stories are personal and compelling, and well worth checking out. Excellent stuff indeed. Right, that is our incidental show for today. We've got a couple more. Tomorrow I am going to be doing something a little bit special, something I've not done before. I'm going to be hosting a live drawing session. Another Kickstarter that we're kind of supporting here on Talking Con is John McCrae's Mighty World of John McCrae Volume 1. Basically, he is close to reaching his 30,000 stretch goal and reaching that line. But what they're wanting to reach is obviously 40,000. I believe there's 10 days to go, and they want to kind of push it over the line. And the way they're going to do that is with a signed print, which is going to be drawn live on this show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. So we're not going to be talking about his history. We're not going to be talking about the books that he's done, although we may touch on a couple of those things. But we're more going to be focusing on his process and about the actual artwork that we're going to be putting together. That's going to be tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. Please do join us for that. Then on Sunday, we have ourselves Derek Robertson, who's going to be our first episode interview back on our Sunday show. And then we've got two special episodes next week. Tuesday, we have ourselves David Papose, who's going to be talking about his Kickstarter. That's a fascinating story called The Oz, or the OZ. If you can imagine, The Wizard of Oz meets Metal Gear Solid. It's, again, very much from a military standpoint. The Dorothy character in there is somebody who has served, who has PTSD, who has comes to the beginning of the story with issues, but then is played out as they enter this very weaponized version of the Wizard of Oz. Very cool looking project. Looking forward to talking to David about that. That's going to be on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we have got a heavy episode. We're going to be talking about the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Jeff Trexler is an IP lawyer. He's somebody who knows his way around the comics landscape. He's somebody who knows the players and knows everybody in comics. But he has taken on the role as the interim director of this organization. An organization which, at the end of the day, has done great good, but has also had its docket marked by the behaviour of not only its director, but also the way that its board has allowed that still to happen over many years. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking to Jeff about what he feels for the Comic Book Legal Defence Fund moving forward, about the issues that people understandably have about the organisation. We're going to be talking all about that. It's going to be a slightly heavier episode, but it's an important conversation to have. And that's going to be on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. That's us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks again to Khai for coming on, and please do support the Kickstarter, because it's a great book. True War Stories, a comics anthology. From myself, Leonard, do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. We are, of course, on Sunday, as well as talking to Derek Robertson, we are also going to be talking about DC fandom and how that's gone. Considering that this is their attempt at doing a virtual convention, is it too much in 24 hours? Is it actually enough, considering that a lot of the programming appears to be the same panels repeated over a 6-hour block? We're going to be talking about all of that and talking about my impressions of DC fandom. That's going to be on this Sunday's show, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. From me to you, take care, and we'll see you tomorrow for our live draw with John McCrae. See you soon.